All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. First things first, happy and healthy new year to each and every one of you, and I hope that all your dreams, hopes, and wishes come true in 2026. I want to take this time out. Of course, we're at halftime of the Rose Bowl between Alabama and Indiana. But nonetheless, I want to take this time out to talk about what we saw today down in Miami in the Orange Bowl. Okay, we expected to see a defensive battle. Okay, and that was the case, but not to the point where one of the participants would be kept off the scoreboard altogether. And coming into this game, we knew all about the fanfare for this Texas Tech defense, and rightfully so. Okay, but Oregon wanted to show that there are no slouches on that side of the football either, and they did. The Ducks came into this game sixth in the nation in yards allowed per game, and today we saw them limit this Red Raiders offense, which was fifth in the nation, to just 215 yards and 0 points. Oregon, to their credit, defensively, never allowed this Texas Tech offense to get in sync. It was total Duck domination today in Miami as Oregon held the football today for 38 minutes on the dot. Oregon's defense harassed Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton all game long. We saw him turn the football over three times, two INTs and a fumble. As a team, Texas Tech turned the football over four times. Oregon was +3 today in the turnover battle. And usually, if you win the turnover battle, especially by three, you're going to go out there and win many more games than you're going to lose. Okay. And that was once again today, the case today. And honestly, it was 23-0 was the final score. But if it wasn't for the Texas Tech defense, because Texas Tech defensively still brought it, okay, this score would have been much more lopsided than it was. You got to give a ton of credit to Oregon head coach Dan Lanning for having his team ready, not only having them ready to play. You know, they made the cross-country trip from Eugene to Miami, but they were on the other side of this coin last year because we saw Oregon as a top-seeded team last year in the CFP be one and done in the playoff as they were shown the door very unceremoniously, courtesy of Ohio State. This time around, they didn't have a first-round bye, and they went out there and took care of their business. On the flip side, it was a phenomenal season from Texas Tech. You cannot discredit anything that the Red Raiders did this season. But unfortunately for them, their season ends on a whimper. And of course, in this tournament, 11 teams are going to finish their season with a loss. And of course, that is the case for Texas Tech. We really didn't see the real Texas Tech team today, okay, in the Orange Bowl. And it's not about Texas Tech as it's more about this Oregon defense. Remember, the Red Raiders were putting up 42 points per game this season prior to today. They basically steamrolled everybody they played, with the exception of the loss to Arizona State. They really did not have a close game all season long. And I know this is not going to help the Big 12's cause because the Big 12 is now 1-7 in college football playoff appearances. The only win for the Big 12 came courtesy of TCU a couple of years ago in the old 14 playoff when they knocked off Michigan and got to the championship game where they were blown out by Georgia. But nonetheless, you look at it, they dominated the Big 12. Okay. They really, and they beat a very good BYU team twice. Okay. Make no mistake about it. But this Texas Tech offense didn't, and I repeat, did not see a defense with the capability, with the skill, and the speed all season long that they saw today from the Oregon Ducks. Nobody in the Big 12 has a defense like with what we saw from Oregon today. So you look at it, and it's one of those where do the Red Raiders go from here? Well, I'll tell you like this. I think this program is headed in the right direction under head coach Joey McGuire. Of course, there are going to be some players that have to be replaced. There's going to be some players moving on to the National Football League, but Texas Tech has shown that they're willing to spend the money in the portal through the NIL. And I think with that, along with the recruiting in the great state of Texas, remember, everybody can't go to the quote unquote big traditional schools. And the Big 12, I think, is going to continue to be wide open. So the Red Raiders are going to have an opportunity. Getting back to today, I look at it and it's one of those where you ask yourself, especially on offense for Texas Tech, what could their head coach, Joey McGuire, have done differently? I think Texas Tech could have gone tempo a little bit earlier. They tried to do it at some points during the second half of this game and try to get the ball out of Baron Morton's hands quicker. It's one of those where they tried to run the football and base early on, to their credit, but it was one of those where this Oregon defense was ready for it, and they basically said, "Hey, you know what? We're not going to let your run game do us in today. It's going to be on the arm of Baron Morton." And of course, unfortunately, for the sake of the folks from Lubbock, he couldn't do it. But again, getting back to what we saw defensively from this Ducks team. You can't say enough about the true freshman Brandon Finney and what he did. He had a fumble recovery. He also had an interception, and he played arguably one of the best games of his brief collegiate career. Too bad that he's a freshman, but nonetheless, he has an NFL future in his hands. You're talking about a freshman who already has an NFL body, and it's not going to be long before we're seeing him playing on Sundays, folks. That's how talented that he is. Dan Lanning has a phenomenal program, not just a team, but a phenomenal program, okay, up in Eugene at Oregon. And I think it showed once again today. Dan Lanning is a relentless recruiter. And I think you see it year in and year out and game in and game out from his teams, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is his strength. I think Oregon, they took it as a challenge today, okay, from the standpoint that a lot of people were talking about the Texas Tech defense this season coming into this game, and Oregon was playing hey, what about us card. Some people are going to talk about the first round buys. I know that the teams with the first round buys are now 0-6 in the college football playoff. If this score currently holds up, it's going to be 1-6 because it looks like Indiana is going to knock off Alabama in the Rose Bowl. But nonetheless, folks are going to talk about that going forward. But I'll tell you like this, um, Oregon was just a better team today in every aspect of the game. You look at total yards, the Ducks today had 309 compared to 215 for the Red Raiders. On top of that, Oregon ran, they were more effective on offense. Okay, there's make no mistake about it. And the bottom line is the Ducks came out there ready to play, and the Ducks deserve to win. So now Oregon is going to sit back. They're waiting on the winner of the Rose Bowl, and like I said, if this score holds up, it's going to be a rematch. Oregon and Indiana. Of course, it's it's going to be very funny because it would be in the Peach Bowl, and you would have a pair of Big Ten teams per se. If Oregon's Big Ten now, okay. Even though I still think of them as a Pac-10 team, but that's neither here nor there. But nonetheless, you're going to have two Big Ten teams invading SEC country, as the Peach Bowl, of course, is in Atlanta. But nonetheless, getting back to the meat and potatoes of things, it's one of those where we saw Oregon and Indiana meet earlier this year. And of course, Indiana really made a lot of people sit up in their chairs when they went to Eugene and beat Oregon by 10 points earlier this year. Matter of fact, it was the only loss that the Ducks had all season long. And of course, I talked about this before the initial 12-team playoff last year, and it's going to once again be the case this year. You're going to see a lot of rematches from the regular season in these in the expanded college football playoff. We already saw it in round number one with Alabama and Oklahoma. We're going to see it tonight in the second round with Ole Miss and Georgia. And of course, there's a potential for another rematch in the semis between Oregon and Indiana. But nonetheless, you look at this Ducks team and you ask yourself how dangerous can they be? And I think very dangerous. I think when you play defense, and I think this tournament is going to be predicated by defense, and especially from the second round on, because we've got some very good defensive teams in remaining in this tournament. We saw two good defenses last night with Ohio State and Miami. We saw two good defenses earlier with Oregon and Texas Tech. I know Alabama's down 17, but the Crimson Tide have a solid defense, and we know what Indiana can do. And I think we're going to see two more good defenses tonight with Georgia and Ole Miss, especially from Ole Miss. But nonetheless, when you play defense like the Ducks can, okay, that is going to keep you in games. It's going to come down to them getting consistent play from their quarterback, Dante Moore, going forward. But nonetheless, it's one of those where I'm not going to sit up here and call Oregon this year's Ohio State from last year. But I will say this: sometimes you need a wake up call. And last year's wake up call for the Buckeyes, of course, was the post game scuffle against Michigan, and of course that ignited something in the Buckeyes. The rest was history. Maybe giving up the yardage and the points that they did to James Madison was a wake up call. Maybe hearing all about Texas Tech's defense was a wake up call as well. But nonetheless, the Ducks will be a force to be reckoned with for as long as they remain in this tournament. Myth 4201, what is going on? Happy and healthy 2026 to you and yours. You are asking me what's my pick for tonight. Well, I went with Georgia. Okay. And, it's one of those this time around for round number two. I went with all of the teams who had the first round buys. Of course, that didn't work out from Ohio State last night. It darn sure didn't work out for Texas Tech today. It looks like it's working out for Indiana right now. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with Georgia. I'm going to lean on that Georgia defense. And I'll tell you like this, Ole Miss really didn't have to worry about it because, the adrenaline, the emotion after, their first game, sans Lane Kiffin against Tulane in round number one. I'll tell you like this game right here, I truly do feel that the Rebels are going to miss having a Lane Kiffin out there. I think the Sugar Bowl is going to be electric tonight. Two SEC teams not too far from their respective campuses. Nonetheless, New Orleans is much closer to Oxford than it is for Athens. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a tremendous atmosphere. But not having Lane Kiffin, I think, hurts Ole Miss in this game tonight. I think if they had Lane Kiffin, and I think if everything was everything, might be a different case, but that's neither here nor there. So to answer your question, once again, I'm going with the Dogs in this one. But you look at the Ducks, okay, they look pretty good in Miami. And of course, if they're able to knock off the winner of Indiana, Alabama, and the Peach Bowl, they're going to get back to Miami for the championship game. So you know what? It's maybe they can return to the scene of the crime and do it twice, but nonetheless, either way, they got to take care of their business in the Peach Bowl, which won't be easy. I'll tell you like this: if the score holds up, and we're going to see Oregon against Indiana once again, Indiana is going to be favored. I don't think by that much. I would say probably maybe 4 or 5. I know Indiana was about a 7-point favorite, and they held that for the most part coming into this game with Alabama. But nonetheless, the Hoosiers are the real deal. We all know that right now, and that rematch with Oregon would definitely be must-see TV. But nonetheless, the Ducks were on a mission from the moment that they took the field today. Maybe the previous experience of being in the college football playoff helped them. You, you can say that about Ohio State, but it didn't. It didn't affect Miami, who beat them last night. But nonetheless, either way, the Ducks were ready to play. And as I say that, it's looking more and more like it's going to be Oregon and Indiana in a rematch because the Hoosiers just scored another touchdown and they're an extra point away from going up 24-0. And at that point, you can put the women and children to bed. I don't think Alabama's coming back from this one. But nonetheless, the Ducks were on a mission to take care of their business today. They did. Credit to Dan Lanning for winning his first college football playoff game. This is Oregon's first college football playoff or second college playoff football playoff victory since the initial CFP when they got to the championship game. So let's see if the Ducks can get on a roll from here. But nonetheless, the Orange Bowl belongs to Oregon. And after conquering Texas Tech in the southeast region of the country, they'll be back there in a couple of weeks to take on, looks like, Indiana in the Peach Bowl. But nonetheless, this day belonged to Oregon and their defense. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Myth, as always, thank you for chiming in. Happy New Year. Definitely keep this channel in your rotation as I got plenty to talk about in regards to the CFP as well as the final week of the NFL season. So take care, man. For everybody else, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, I will do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, definitely check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.